I'd like to welcome you to the Stevens Transportation Safety Orientation. Over the next half an hour, you're going to learn various ways to keep yourself safe while doing your job. We take safety very seriously, and we are committed to having everyone home every evening with their family. Truck driving can be a very dangerous job if the proper precautions are not taken. Over the course of this safety video, we're going to teach you the best methods to accomplish your job. We will teach you how to pre-trip and post-trip trucks and trailers. We will teach you how to brake the trailers and reconnect them as well. In addition to that, we will teach you how to tarp and untarp the Stevens Transportation rolled tarps. So over the next half an hour, I encourage you to sit back, relax, and learn about safety. Thank you. And now to discuss proper safety equipment, we're going to hand it off to Judy Elizondo. Judy is the safety lead here at Stevens Transportation. Good morning, Judy.
Good morning, Sheldon, and welcome to Stevens Transportation. For the next few minutes, we'll be discussing the proper safety issues that you need to use when you're working with Stevens Transportation. Safety is very important to Stevens Transportation, and you as an employee are one of our main goals to keep safe. There are several things that you'll need as an employee that all employees are required to wear. Safety glasses. They're to be worn anytime you go into the shop, when you're pre-tripping a truck or a trailer, or tarping. Office personnel must also wear them if they enter the shop. There's a yellow line past the vending machine. If you cross this yellow line and go into the shop area, you must have safety glasses on. Many things can happen out in the elements. We can get rocks and sand in our eyes. Rubber snubbers on the tarps or ropes can bounce back and hit you in the face. If you're working in the shop, welding matter can get into your eyes. The other requirement for shop and drivers are work boots. They must be waterproof. They must have the waffle sole. This is an oil-resistant sole. We prefer a high-top boot compared to a low one, especially if you're a truck driver. There's often snakes out in the field, so we don't want anything biting you. All employees, whether they're a shop personnel, a driver, or management, must wear a safety vest in the yard at all times. When you're first hired, you'll be given a safety vest. Once you're here for 90 days, you receive uniforms. Your uniforms have bright, reflective stripes on them. At that time, you're not required to wear the vest unless you're wearing an overcoat. If you have an overcoat, you must have this on. Shop personnel, anytime they leave the shop, they have to have a safety vest on. The office personnel, whenever they leave the front office and come to the yard, they will also have a safety vest on. Management is also required to wear safety vests at all times. One of the problems that truck drivers have is slips and falls. We deal with this a lot. To help minimize this, there's several things that you can do. Using the 3-point exit on your truck, that is meaning that you have on holding on to something with both hands and your foot on the step. Never just walk down the trailer front ways, always come down back ways. Take note of where you're stepping down to, because if you're coming off of your truck and there's a chuck hole here, you're going to fall. Do not put carpeting or artificial turf on your steps, because in the wintertime with the frost they will freeze, and when you step out you'll slide right off. When you're pre-tripping, take care about the land that's around you. Look at it. Don't take it for granted everything is flat, because it's not. There's loose rocks, there's potholes. When it rains, you may not even see a pothole because it could be full of water, it's muddy, and it's slippery. So watch where you step. Watch your head as you're coming out from underneath a trailer. Remember, you have something low. Do not raise your head before you clear the trailer. Thank you, Shelton. And safety is the number one thing, and I hope you learned something with Stevens Transportation. Safety number one. Thank you. Shelton?
Thank you, Judy. And now for our next segment, we're going to head out into the yard and meet with equipment manager Lawrence Lucas. Lawrence will teach us how to properly pre-trip and post-trip both trucks and trailers, and he's also going to teach us how to tarp and untarp our carrot trailers. And now to take us to our next segment is Lawrence Lucas.
I'm here to just help you to be as safe as possible in doing the pre-trips so that we won't create any more problems or bigger problems that we have to take care of on the road or in the yard. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is just do the pre-trip on the tractor itself. The law states that you must always pre-trip your truck. So when you walk up on the truck, make sure that you look underneath for any leaks. Any leaks that'll come out will come out under cold pressure. There's no heat, so nothing expands. The block is in a position where if there's going to be a leak in the radiator or any heater hose, it's going to be that way, and you'll see it on the ground. So now we'll go ahead and unhook the hood, and then we'll tilt it, but raise it a little bit so that you unseat it out of its socket. Then we're going to go to the front, and we're going to tilt it. We're going to tilt it over. These later model trucks, you don't have to do too much pulling. They have struts that help the hood come to a stop. Then we're going to check the elements in the truck. The first one you'll check is your oil, the dipstick. The dipstick, you'll pull it out. Since you haven't run it, you should get an accurate reading then. If not, you can always use a rag to get that reading. Okay, now I'm going to wipe it off, and I'll show you that it was on the full mark. But the manufacturer says that you can run this unit down to the low mark. As long as it's within the low and the full mark, it's okay. When it goes below the low mark, then you'll add 1 gallon of oil and you'll be okay. The next thing that we'll go to is we'll go to the cold elements, which is the sump for the radiator, the coolant. It has a low cold mark and it has a high hot mark. If this radiator ever gets low, there is a low sensor that's right here. If the water level gets here, then that sensor will cut this truck off. So the first thing you look for if a truck dies out and you said it just stopped or went dead is check the coolant. You can add more water to it. When you get back to the shop, we'll add coolant to it because you should always have at least a 50-50 mix on the coolant. The next thing you'll look at is your power steering fluid and its sight seeing. You can tell when it's cold level and then hot level. And then on your reservoir for your windshield wipers, sight seeing also. And that's the blue coolant. Check your V-belts. Just do a visual, check any hoses, any clamps for your intake. And the other side, you'll do the same thing. On your fuel filter, when the fuel gets high, there is a level that says change out. So the lower the fuel is, the better it's fueling. As it gets a restriction, the fuel will rise. That means that the shop will change it out. Okay? When you've checked it and looked, the next thing you do is shut the hood down. We'll lower the hood, and you don't have to grab and hold it because it has struts, and the struts will let itself down safely. We'll go to each side and we'll latch it. It has a latch on both sides. Okay, the next thing that you'll check after you've checked the front and you've checked your tires, you bumped your tires, you made some eyeball checks to make sure everything's good, is make sure you check your air hoses. You have 2 sets of hoses that go from the trailer protection valve, which is the emergency side, and it's usually always painted red, and the service side delivery is always painted blue. But you want to check the hoses to make sure there's no breaks in the insulation, because any tears or breaks or rubs is a ticket by the CHP. So when the hoses are all good, then you pretty much completed your pre-trip of your truck. we're gonna hook the truck, connect the truck to the trailers. And the first thing you want to look at when you find the right trailer you think is the right trailer is make sure that the trailer is not too high. It means too high from the top to the bottom, because if it's too high you're going to back under it and you're going to not hook. So if it's too low you're going to have to lower your suspension to get under it. So try to look at the front of the trailer to see exactly how high it is or how low it is. Now we're going to take the truck and make sure that we're plumb and that's straight. The outside of this tire with the outside of this trailer, not the tire over here and not the tire way over here. So we don't want to be too far one way, we don't want to be too far the other way. We want to be lined up and be plumb so that you can hit the kingpin and be latched up. Okay, we've already hooked up and we did the tug test. And the tug test is to make sure that the fifth wheel is latched to the kingpin. If the fifth wheel does not latch to the kingpin, when you take off empty, you're gonna drop the trailer. So you can hear the latch. And then you do the tug test by putting it in forward gear and just letting out on the clutch and just tugging against it a little bit, 1 or 2 times, and then that's fine. Okay, now we're connecting the air hoses from the trailer protection valve to the trailer. The first one you can connect is the furthest one, which is the blue one that we talked about. That's the delivery or the service. You kind of wet it a little bit with your finger or a little saliva. Then we'll connect the electrical, the 7-way, because it's right in the middle. You can do them either way you would like. Lights. That is the emergency side that delivers air to the trailers to release the brakes once I match the MB3 valve on the dash. It supplies the trailer to release the air. Okay, before you get out of the truck, just make sure that you turn on your headlights and your backlights so that when you do the pre-trip on the trailers, the lighting is already on. And your 4-way flashers. So when you get way to the back on doing your pre-trip, you'll know that the flashers are working as you look at them. Okay? And that's this brake light, headlight, tail lights, and that's this for dual flashers. Okay, the first thing that we do after we do the connection is make sure that we find the crank handle, the landing gear crank handle, and then we're going to start the pre-trip on the opposite side. That way you won't get on the other side and find that you have a tire and it's a flat tire and you've already rolled these landing gears up. So we're going to go around the other side and start. So the first thing we're going to do on this side of the trailer is make sure that we look from the top of the trailer all the way up to the front and make sure there's no cracks or breaks on the box itself that's sitting on the front. We come to this section and we look under to see the cross members or the flooring. We back up a little bit further and we can see all the way across to those flooring and that side of the trailer. This side we can look to the outside, but when we get to the other side, we'll look from that side on the inside to look at the cross members and the flooring. You do it in 3 different phases. A third, and a third, and a third. So making sure that everything that we're looking at is A-OK, including these hold downs, and that the bolts are tight. Anything that has rusty water, where there's a bolt or wear is loose, is a leak. The same with these hold downs. If you ever see rusty water, then there's a loose bolt or something, the connection is not tight. At this point, I'm going to look at the same thing. I'm going to make sure that I bump my tires. Bang, bang. I'm going to come to this point. I'm going to look at my rim, look at all my lug nuts. If any rusty water stains are running away from those lug nuts, it is a loose lug nut. I'm going to look at my hubcap and look at the oil on my hubcap to make sure that the oil level is good. Oil level I can see, and a lot of times you have to clean that off. If you're not cleaning that off and you come and you said you did a pre-trip, and we go and we look at it and it's dirty, then you didn't do a pre-trip. Let's come to the back. I'm going to look under the back, make sure that I see sightseeing everything, and I usually always look at the gate valve, which is right here. when they're turned, the gate valves, when they're turned crossways, it's off. When it's turned straight on, it's usually 99% on. And this is the service side, which is the curb side of the road. The other side would be the road side. So this is the application side. When you mash the brake, it applies air to all the trailer. I come to this part, I look at the back end of this box, the back end of the trailer. I look at the lights. I look at both sides. I got turn signals. I look at my license plate. I look at my license plate light. I look and make sure that my service hose, which is a blue one, is on, intact. I look at the other side, which is my emergency, my red. It's on, intact. And I look at my 7-way light cord. I look at my hits to make sure my safety is down and on my safety latch. I look at the eye. This is the drawbar, which is the tongue. And this is a hitch with a penal hook. The eye sits over it. And everything looks good here. I turn around, I double check the tongue. Make sure the tongue is good. Looking at my connections on my hinges. Remember about the rusty water. If there's any rusty water lines, something is loose. Always remember that. And I come to the front, I look at the front corner. I look at that side, the brake lining, which is very good. It's thick. The law says a 1/4 inch or 40%, you can't leave the yard. I check lug nuts again, I check the oil level. And remember, we'll do a rollback to make sure we've checked our tires all the way here and there's no drag spot. But there could be a drag spot here, but I can't see it. But when we do a rollback, a 1/4 rollback, then we'll tell if there's any drag marks down there. Okay, I'm at the back, I'm checking everything here. It looks good. I'm on the tail end. All my lights are on. My tail light light. I can look and see the rear of my springs. They're both good. I'm now on the roadside. Turn signals are working, locks are good. And I reverse and do the same thing all the way up, all the way back to the front. And when I get to the front and I'm good, now I can crank the landing gears up. So I will go ahead and crank the landing gears up, and then we will do a rollback. Okay, remember, all trailers, the only thing that can fall on the road is water and feathers, and that's the law. So make sure that there's no dirt or rocks on your sand feet, because if it falls off in the CHP, he can give you a ticket. Let's make sure that we double hang up our crank handles, and know that this red tube is a registration for both trailers, and they're usually always on the driver's side in this 1.25 inch tube. So your registration is here. If there's any carrots along this ledge that was washed out but then got wedged, make sure that you break them off and clean them up. Because when those fall down, that's a CHP ticket also. I'm gonna do a rollback, because rollbacks help release brakes. So I've got my 120 pounds of air, and I'm gonna do a 1/4 rollback. A 1/4 rollback means that I'm gonna just back up so that this bottom that might be dragged is right here. Okay, now we just did a 1/4 turn rollback. So if it was another trailer parked within 2 foot or 3 foot of you, you could come to the semi trailer, which is a dual or donut, and you can look and see I have no drag marks. I did a 1/4 turn rollback, so there's no drag marks here. On that side, there's no drag marks. At this point right here, I can look at the front of the pull trailer, there's no drag marks. I can look at the other side, the curb side, there's no drag marks. I can look all the way to the rear of the pull trailer, the rear axle, I see no drag marks. I can look over the front axle here on the roadside all the way through the back, and I see no drag marks. So I have a trailer that I can take on the road now, because I've done my pre-trip, there's no drag marks. The brakes are released, I didn't drag anything, so now we can take it on the road. But there's one other thing you must do when you pull forward. You must do what we call the snake. That means as you pull out of the parking area, you just turn a little bit the way you're going, and you look down the side of your trailer and see that all tires are rolling. But remember, you can't see if you don't have air in the seat. If you're a low rider, you won't see it. So you got to sit up and then take notice. as you turn right, you can just cock a little bit to the left and look down the roadside, and you'll see that all tires are rolling, not dragging, and then you can continue on. Now remember that if you do a rollback and the trailer and the trucks, and once you mash in on the clutch, if it stops, you have a lock brake. You should fill your air supply, make sure that it's 120 pounds, mash the brake, release it, do a rollback again. Now if it's still locked, you need to get out and see which one is locked, because it's not gonna lock, unlock, roll, lock, roll, lock. It's not gonna do that. You'll see on the ground where the tire that's locked. And if you can't release it by tapping on the brake lining with your hammer or your bar, then you must leave that trailer and put a tag on it and say brakes locked. And then the shop will take care of any brakes locked up. Don't drag it, think it's going to break loose, because it's not. Okay, and unhooking and hooking a set of trailers, doubles. There's 7 things that you have to be aware of, that you have to disconnect, unhook, or connect up. The first one that you want to make sure of when disconnecting is to unhook the light cord, bring it, and wrap it around so it doesn't get dragged in the field when the wheel tractor is pulling the trailer through the field. You've tied it. The next one is either hose. You can go your emergency or your service. You shut it off from the back. That's number 2. Unhook it. Shut the other side off. Unhook it. Put them together as best you can so that they don't get dust into those RD6 valves. And then stuff it in so it's not dragging. We don't have a problem in the field. So we went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we go number 6, your safety chain. Now remember, a safety chain, there's 2 different kinds. There's a hook kind, and then there's a link hook. The link one goes between this hook just goes in, but the hook should always, the biggest part should face you. Hook it that way. Never hook it this way. If you hook it this way, you will get a ticket. So it's always hook it this way. Back to you, okay? Try to get it to where you're hooking it somewhere. The 7th thing is unhooking the pintle hook, the hitch. You need a hammer to make sure that you get it over to unlatch the safety. Then you'll take the bar and you'll raise up that safety. You just need to roll back the truck just a little bit. Remember that all we need to do is unhook it. We don't have to pull a whole mile away. We just unhook it. You lift it up, and you'll pull forward a foot or 2. It's unhooked for the wheel tractor. Now we're gonna hook back up. Now the wheel tractor is gonna bring the full trailer. It's gonna be loaded, and he's gonna drop it right behind the semi. Now you'll have to hook this semi to this pull trailer, so you have to back it in. So the first thing you have to do is make sure that you're plumb. The back of this trailer is even with this trailer if these tires are straight. If these tires are not straight, then you're gonna have to back this corner to the side of this trailer, the tires. If they're straight and plumb, then you'll just back that corner to this corner. And it should come in to view just like that. So we've just backed in, we were perfect, we were plumb, so we backed in, and so now we're locked. That's number 1. And remember, if I'm helping you or if anybody else is helping you, make sure that you check it. Don't take for granted that Jim said you're okay. No, you come back and you check it. You make sure that you knock it down and you lock it. The safety is engaged, so that hitch, that pintle hook is locked. So that's number 1. Number 2, we're going backwards now. We had 7, so we're gonna go back with 7 things. Safety chain. Number 2 is gonna be the safety chain and hook. and you're gonna hook it back this way. Okay, you can see that the strong part is to you. That's number 2. Number 3, we're gonna go back to our air hoses. We're gonna make that service side the blue one, number 3. And then we're gonna turn it on, number 4. Then we're gonna go to number 5, the emergency. And always kind of look at your glad hand rubbers, make sure they're good. Put a little saliva on them. Turn it on is number 6. Air's going to the back. You got to get your number 7. That's your light cord. Now you're hooked. Now, if the fill drained the air out of the tanks to pull the trailer through the field to load it, you have to go to number 8 and number 9. Number 8 is going to be the pitcock on the first axle air tank. Each axle has an air tank and a pitcock. The pitcock is what holds the air in the tank. If I was to open it the way it would be open when they pull the trailer to the field, all the air would be escaping. So you would be hearing the air and you would come underneath and you would close it. Now it's closed. The same with the back axle. There's another air tank on the back. The pitcock is going to be open, the air is going to be escaping, and you have to close the pitcock. Now you've done your 7, 8, 9 things. Now you're ready to go.
Okay, so now we're going to teach you how to properly tarp and untarp your load. Each of the trailers is equipped with 3 ropes. The outer ropes are there to secure the rollover tarp when the trailer's traveling empty. The middle rope is designed to help assist you in rolling the tarp over the load. So to begin, you'll want to untie each of the 3 ropes. So once you untie this rope, it's very important to flip the rope over the tarp and secure it. So now that we have our outer rope secured, the next thing we'll do is throw the center rope over the trailer to bring the tarp over. So now that you have the rope thrown over the trailer, all you need to do now is step back and pull the rope and the tarp will tarp the load itself. So the next thing you want to do now is you actually want to secure the tarp with the winches and ratchets. Now as you tighten up the straps, you'll want to go back with a winch bar and tighten them down just a little. You don't need to over tighten it, otherwise you'll cause damage to the tarps. One word of caution, once you're tarped, you'll want to stop in about 15 or 20 miles just to make certain that the straps are still tight, the ropes are still tight. As the truck moves, the load will actually settle, giving you more material. So the next thing we need to do is retrieve our tarp crank handle, which is located on the driver's side of the semi-trailer. So now we're ready to roll our tarp. So now that we have the tarp rolled up, we'll secure the tarp for the next person.
My name is Mike Dermanowil Jr. I am the president of Dermanowil Insurance Group, and I'm very pleased that we've been able to help Stevens Transportation and the Stevens family make this video about safety on the job. The reason we're doing this is because you are working for a very extraordinary company. They're a company that truly cares about its people and wants to make sure that everybody works safely, but that when they do get hurt, they're taken care of. And so our job in working with the Stevens is to make sure that all that happens. And so now that we've learned about a few ways to avoid getting hurt, it's time to talk about what to do if we do get hurt. And it's not real complicated. You want to report that injury to your supervisor, and you want to do that the day that it happens. You want to fill out and complete all the accident reports and make sure that we understand why you were hurt, and perhaps we can use that information down the road to help prevent an injury from happening to somebody else. But beyond that, we want you to get medical care at the facility that is approved in your workers' comp program. And that's important to do because we've selected the best treating facilities for you so that you can get back on the job faster, that you can heal faster, and that the results of your injury aren't too disruptive to you or to the Stevens Transportation operation. So it's pretty important to report that injury quickly, to go through the paperwork and to get to the doctor. Now, I do want to say this, and I think everybody should know this up front. In California, you can get an attorney if you're injured in workers' compensation. That is your legal right to do. However, I would like to discourage you from considering that as your first option. It is the Stevens family and it is the aim of this company to take good care of its employees. And the only reason to get an attorney is if you're being mistreated or you feel like your rights are not being looked after. And I can assure you in this company, that's not going to happen. So by all means, you have the right, but let's really try to avoid that. And let's really try to go through the system, seek your medical care that you need, and get back on the job. Because after all, this is about keeping everybody healthy, safe, and working. And that's our goal today. So thank you for your time, and we've enjoyed being able to do this for you, and we hope that you're all safe out there on the job.
I hope you learned something. I'll hand it back to Shelton.
Thank you, Lawrence. Now, let's head back inside and we'll review the key points for safety. Now that we spent time with Lawrence Lucas and Judy Elizondo, let's take a moment to recap the items they've covered with us. So the first item, proper pre-tripping and post-tripping both trucks and trailers. You want to be mindful of your working area, so keep an eye out for potholes, gopher holes, and other things that might impede your movement. And when you're pre-tripping, you want to be certain that you don't hit your head on a trailer. Take time to look around, feel around, so that you have the proper head clearance to get up from under the trailer. So when you're braking and reconnecting the trailers, you want to remember the 7 key points. Of most importance is to make certain that the safety chain is facing the ground. It is the driver's responsibility, and it will also be the driver's ticket if the chain is oriented in the wrong direction. For proper PPE, you want to make certain that you have safety glasses, a reflective vest, high-top shoes with a waffle sole, and you also want to make certain that you have gloves to protect your hands. When tarping your trailer, you want to make certain that you stop after you've tarped the load within 15 to 20 minutes. The reason is the carrots will shift and the tarp will become larger. Of most importance, never climb on a trailer. We've invested a significant amount of money to make certain that drivers will never need to climb on a trailer. We hope you take the information that was provided to you today to heart. We are committed to your safety and to general public safety. If you have any questions, we encourage you to reach out to your safety team. Again, thank you for joining Stevens Transportation, Inc.